Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are fairly jam-packed this evening for me. It's just gone live. I hope we are live. I think, as you view it from the right, we have Rory Paul, then Loretta, Jean, who's mobile, Duran in South Africa, David Walters, and of course Bruce Simpson on the far end. If I got that wrong, simply reverse the names. So first off, good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody. And we're going to jump to Jean first, who is mobile in Texas. Jean, how are you? Are you safe and well?
Okay, it's going to be a little loud, but I'll try to talk through it. We are mobile. We are working for a state agency here. We're trying to help with the disaster relief that's going on here for Harvey. We started out in Rockport near Corpus Christi, and they have been slowly moving us up the coast, working critical infrastructure. And I got to tell you, we spent 3 days down in Rockport, and it looked like Hiroshima. The destruction that the media puts up there is not nearly as awe-inspiring as actually being on the ground and seeing the force that hurricane produced. We went to one of my friends has a house down there in Rockport, and he told me that their weather station quit at 148 miles an hour. So that gives you an idea of just exactly the power. And there were very few houses down there that were habitable after that. So it's been awe-inspiring. We've been on the road for, this is what, 8 days now? Yes. Yeah, well, we're 8 days. Let me show you what we're living in. We call this Puppy Feet 1. This is a van that is outfitted as a mobile command station. And there's my partner, John Buell, there in the back. You can see him waving. He's got the console that we use for the flight console. And then as we go around, you can see that we've got pictures up here on the big screen. And then kind of try to make you dizzy a little bit. There's the driver. That's Enrique Flores. He's our driver for the day. We've been switching on. And there you can see maybe a little bit of the map where we're going. We're headed toward the coast now. You can see where the road is closed right there, but we get to ignore that and continue on through all the muck and the carry on down there. So man, it has been an incredible ride for us. So we're very lucky in that we have the mission caster here from KSI Video that allows us to do this sort of thing while we're mobile and rolling down the road. And I'm not driving. See, I wanted to show somebody that I'm not driving and talking on the phone at the same time. So this has worked out. Go ahead.
You say, mate, that you're doing a critical infrastructure. What does that mean? You're going and getting the power back on for people as you go?
Actually, the critical infrastructure that we're dealing with is water and wastewater, drinking water. Our concern right today is drinking water. There are many agencies out here that are holding off on letting people drink water. The place that we're going to right now has a boil order on, so that they have to boil water before they can drink it. So we're going to go down there and do the damage down to see what the damage is down there.
So what are you using? What are you, if you're at liberty to tell us, what are you doing, Gene?
Well, we're actually taking pictures and getting to the point where the experts, we're obviously not the experts in this, but with the remote situation that we have here, we can take pictures and send them back to the incident command, and they can tell us, or they us to tell other people who need to know what the damage is, what needs to be done to remediate it, and it gives them situational awareness, which is the thing that we've always said that we can do with drones, right? And we're out here actually living it, doing it, and proving it. And I got to tell you, everybody that has seen what we can do wants more. So it's going to be between this and if they make us go to Florida for Irma, you know, there's no telling how far this is going to go. We've got another tropical depression in the Gulf right now that there's so much water around us right now that if it starts raining again, it's going to be another flood all over again. So it's just a crazy situation right now, and it's a stack up of, you know, the perfect storm and another perfect storm on top of it. So
we were hoping to have Daniel Herbert join us from Sky Gear Solutions, and the main reason we're hoping to get Daniel along was because of, well, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it all on Facebook, but Drone Up, a group with an app, have used his image of their guys operating there and sort of claimed it as their own. And perhaps a part of, perhaps Drone Up is part of a contingent of people that have rushed down there. A lot of people, a lot of good intention going there, but perhaps not going in an organized manner. Can you see, this is the first big storm of Part 107, isn't it? This is the first big natural disaster since 107 has started. Do you think it's going to get people's heads in moving in that direction as to how to organize it again next time? And have you had any problems with anybody operating down there, Gene?
yeah, as a matter of fact, we've had to educate some people, and we do it nicely. We just ask them, you know, do you have your Part 107, and do you have your insurance, and do you have your clearance? And there were people out there that were flying in no-fly zones and in TFRs that didn't know they couldn't. So we're seeing that sort of thing happen all the time out here, and it's rampant. But the drone up situation is even worse because we looked at it last night, and they don't even ask you whether you have insurance or not, or how much flying you can do. And they've essentially turned it into a Pokemon game, because you go out and for every flight you make, you get a badge, and then you earn a star, and then you get a statue, you know, a reward or something like that. And come on, guys, you know, you just can't do that out here when people are trying to get their lives back together after a storm of this magnitude.
So what do you think will happen moving forward? What's gonna solve this solution? When's the big meeting gonna happen? And I've also seen a lot of people saying, why on earth do you need a 107? I'm gonna come down and rescue people. And of course, as we always say, we're preaching to the converted here. My opinion of why you need a 107 is at least you'd have a basic idea of what might be happening in the airspace around you. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to make that the minimum SAR requirement. You can probably end up doing a lot more harm than good if you just barrel on in there. But you're right in the heart of it, Gene. You go ahead and answer to that.
Well, we've been working with both the state and the FAA, and you know, I got to give props to the FAA. They've been getting us ECOAs within an hour, so I can't complain at all about the way the FAA has treated us. We've asked for some pretty outlandish things, and they've come back and said, you know, well, we can't do that, but here we can help you with this. And I've got to tell you, it has worked out pretty well getting that done. You know, the thing that you know, we're drone pilot, and we push the training, and these people have no clue what they're doing out here, especially in a disaster situation. Most people go out and they fly on Sunday, or they go out in their backyard and they fly, and it flies around, and you know, they think it's great. These are some of the worst possible conditions that you could fly in. You have no infrastructure. It's hot. There's mosquitoes. You don't have ability to charge batteries. There's no electricity. There's no water. Security is an issue. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that there's been some people that kind of went zombie apocalypse when the boats wouldn't come by and pick them up and started shooting at people. So, you know, you've got to be on your A game when you come out here, and you've got to know what to expect. And when you have people who decide that they are going to make the trip from some far northeastern state and drive down and beg for supplies on the way to hopefully hold them out, it's just like, you know, what are you thinking? Have you never been to a place where there's nothing? And it's difficult. It's you know, We have the van completely provisioned. We have water. We have our own gas. We have food for a week for 4 people. So, we're totally prepared for this. We're completely self-contained. We have a generator on board. We can run, well, as you can see, we're running right now a generator as we drive down the road. So, it's one of those things that, you got to be careful for what you wish, because you get down here and, man, you could end up being a part of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I saw some reports that some of the guys in boats ended up needing, taking rescue time. The rescuers needed rescuing. But let's not preach on too much about that. Well done you for being there. I'll throw it over to the floor. Has anyone else got any questions for Gene as he's rolling down the road?
Yes, I'd like to know, Gene, could you describe what you're working for a public agency getting a COA? So the 107 is just because you have a 107. So could you describe the process of how that's working, what you do, and who's getting what and stuff like that?
Sure can. One of the things that is a bit of progress for the state of Texas is that in our Strategic Operations Command in the Capitol, we have, or there was established an AOC, which is an Air Operations Center just for drones. Hang on, quick left turn here, and I need to grab everything. So the Air Operations Center coordinated with the FAA for us to get our clearances through them. And then after the AOC shut down, because that's a statewide asset, we were given the information that we needed to apply for our own ECOAs directly with the SOSC in Washington, D.C. And even at that, we've done extremely well at getting our COAs in a pretty timely fashion.
Okay, anyone else got anything else? We're keeping them here while we can. And what aircraft are you using? What are you actually flying, Gene?
We have actually pledged. We've got 8 aircraft here. DJI products, of course, and that's another thing that we'll talk about later on, was getting unlocked from DJI products. But we've got Inspires, Phantoms, and Mavics, and we brought a Spectra with us. But additionally, I'm the air boss for this region for the drone side of it, and we've got pledged the K-Max, we've got Indigos from Lockheed Martin, we've got Aerostats, we've got long duration aircraft, the LM-15s. We have just a little bit of everything ready to come out and do the work that's necessary to get the remediation done. So you can't really fault anybody at all for not trying to get out here, because they've done a good job at getting equipment out here.
So let's just jump to the DJI thing. Have you managed to get stuff unlocked? And also, let's also add on to that, you said you're the air boss. Does that mean everybody that's coming to that region, and what sort of area we're talking about there has got to go through you?
Well, for our operation, for the critical infrastructure stuff, yes, they will come through me. And so far, we've had a number of teams come in and get on the roster, and they are a part of the resource list that goes to Incident Command. So they know that they're out there, and they can schedule them and work them in as necessary. As far as the DJI stuff is concerned, we took off, didn't have them unlocked, and we had to pull some strings, and we had to go to as high as we could go and get them unlocked, and it took about 24 hours to get them unlocked. But we did get all 7 aircraft that we have here unlocked and ready to go. It became a problem for us when we got near airports, and especially on Rockport, everything is smashed to smithereens, but there's an airport on the chart, so we couldn't fly. That was a little bit maddening, and we had to deal with that.
I'm sure you'll be having the conversations then as time goes by with the various people that we know. So, man. Cool. And David, CQNet, I think you guys offered your software to the guys in Texas. What was the outcome of that, David?
Yeah, so some of my colleagues were in touch with the guys with Houston. I think they'd already established the AOC at that point. But I'd be interested to hear from Gene if they're using any central software to coordinate all of the drone operations that are currently going on. You know, how are they understanding of who's operating where? How is that working?
Baby steps. Let's talk baby steps. We're trying to get them to understand what the drone capabilities are at this point, and to get them to talking about a centralized drone dispatching and that sort of thing. Kind of makes their eyeballs roll up into the back of their head, and we're actually in the midst of busting a huge paradigm here. So 25 years of this is the way we've done it and this is the way we're going to do it is all started to get turned on its ear right now because it's been so difficult to get around. And there have been so many places that are inaccessible, and there's been so many places that drones have gone in and provided the situational awareness that they needed to make proper decisions.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, hopefully, you know, God forbid if there is another one, but hopefully at some point, if we can get involved, we're more than happy to supply our system, you know, and help with the coordination of the efforts and the great work you guys are doing out there, because it's absolutely fantastic. Fantastic work, guys.
Thanks. We're just we're trying to do our best to help remediate, but by the same token, you know, we're kind of ambassadors out here as well. We're trying to make it understandable and useful to as many people as we can.
Yeah, well, I think there's going to be a lot of, well, it's going to be a huge amount of data fast, isn't there? I think it's going to be the first time that a flood scene is going to be documented quite as accurately, quite as quickly. And then hopefully they'll put measures in place to stop those things happening in the future. So the first big storm of 107, it's also the first big harvest of part 107. So I'd like to bring Rory in now. And you must be just about coming into harvest now. Autumn's coming, isn't it? How's the farming scene been over there? That great big, we're all going to be millionaires this time next year, Rodney scene over there.
Gary, so yes, harvest is quickly approaching here in the Midwest, central Midwest. It has already started slightly further south. So at this point in the season, other than insurance claims and adjusters going out and using systems to kind of map damage, etc., we're kind of done for the year. And what I'm about to say is just my own personal experience and feedback from the market. It has been a very flat year. Yeah. So while I think that a number of companies, mostly on the software side, have shown really promising technology, and I'm thinking of like drone deploys, field scanner application, we haven't really seen the fireworks that we were led to believe was going to happen. And that is mostly due, unfortunately, due to commodity price. Corn and soybeans, there's a glut of them. That might be about to change because we've had what's called a spotty drought here in the US. So yields might be impacted this year and commodity prices might start to go up. But right now, as we stand, agricultural implement sales, new technologies, etc., flat. So pretty much I'm going to repeat what Gene said about people running out and purchasing equipment without really realizing that they need to actually get certification or get 107s. We've seen the same thing in the agricultural sector. You can go out now, grab yourself a DJI Mavic for $1,000, get a license from Drone Deploy, and go out and map a field. And nobody is telling these guys that they need to get a 107 to go out and fly. So I haven't heard of any incidents this year with aerial applicators running into problems with drones. That doesn't mean that there haven't been. I think more farmers are out there, and I simply think that they've ignored the 107 requirements. That's the what I've kind of seen from farmers that I've spoken to, yeah, they bought a drone, and when you talk to them about 107, it's the first time that they've actually heard about it. So there's a lot of education to do there about FAA requirements and also about liability, and then also about just practical flying. A lot of guys go out, purchase them, and think that they're 100% bulletproof, and are doing silly things with the equipment that they're purchasing.
But do you think they're actually going to get any numbers out of this? Are there going to be effective numbers that prove beyond a doubt that it is $1 billion industry that everyone told us?
No, I don't think that there are going to be any numbers. I don't think that the impact is going to be quantifiable this year, Gary. So while I think that there have been localized impacts for individual farmers that have gone out and seen the benefit of using these systems, I think if you look at agriculture as a whole, at the millions of acres under production, I don't believe that this is going to be the year where they can say, yeah, we've had a 1% bump in yield because of drones. And a 1% bump in yield is millions and millions of dollars impact. And it's going to take a while before we see that. It would literally mean every farmer would have to go out, purchase a unit, and do something with that information. And that simply is not going to happen. So yeah, you can go and scout your fields with a DJI Phantom and get some kind of idea of what's going on in the field. But remember, to actually act on that information, you might have to invest another $500,000 in a variable rate sprayer. And farmers are simply not doing that. Not when the corn price is $3 a bushel.
Yeah, well, that's a great point you make, isn't it? Yes, you can see on the imagery, oh, look, that's a bit dodgy there, but you do need that variable rate sprayer to actually act on it. So,
yeah, and this is one of the things that a lot of people didn't understand. We were touting, go and map a field with NVDI, and then you can go and act on it. Well, you can purchase a $5,000 green seeker to go on a sprayer, and you can do it in real time when you're driving through the field. And we've always said this. Farmers are pragmatic, so why go and spend, $10,000 on a unit to do that when you can spend $5,000 and put it straight in your sprayer if you've got a sprayer? I don't want to be totally pessimistic. I think that what the net result is going to be is that there's tons of opportunity for medium-sized systems with longer duration. And I think that we're going to, in the next couple of years, we're going to start to see manned mapping service providers transitioning to unmanned systems. I think that's going to be the net result. So you can you'll actually map an entire county instead of an individual 600-acre field. It doesn't really make any sense to go out there and try and map 1 million acres with Phantoms. It really doesn't.
You're right, and that just sort of leads me on very nicely. I wish I queued it up and remembered before now, but a company in South Africa that was very much going to be about drone imagery, blah blah blah, is now offering a 300 rand a month satellite imagery using that European satellite at 10 meter resolution. Your whole farm, 300 rand a month, a couple of reports a month on the state of play, and they're pulling free data from space at 10 meter resolution and creating a report for you. And as you say, the big man providers as well. And I'm surprised actually. I don't know if Gene wants to come in. Are there any large assets? Are there any large military assets drilling around and around, pulling in big picture data?
As a matter of fact, we've got. There are a couple of military assets that came in that we have control over, but we haven't been using them much because there's been so much military assets flying around. We're at Ellington Air Force Base, or what used to be Ellington Air Force Base in Houston, and we've seen Chinooks and Hueys and you name it in and out of there. And of course, in Corpus, we're at the NAS, the Naval Air Station there, and we saw the Sea Kings and the Furies and everything else down there from the Coast Guard. So we just try to stay out of their way as best we can.
But there's no Predators or Reapers on station for you? Global Hawks? Have you sent any of those?
I am a mere mortal. They would not
Ah.
tell me whether there was a predator up there or not. So, you know, I haven't reached that lofty height yet.
I will have to look on Flight Radar 24 and see if I see any. See, there must be somewhere. Well, you just would make sense that they would be giving big picture sort of sensing and then saying, "Oh, Gene, look, we've done this with the Predator. Now, won't you go and look at it even closer?"
Hey, Google updated their photographs of Rockport. If you look at Rockport right now, you will see some of the destruction days after.
That's impressive. So that again, that could be a manned aircraft. I know there are some manned aircraft doing lawnmower patterns over there. Well, let's roll on. So we think farming is not really happening, Rory, and that's what we'll put it down as. We'll say that Harvest 2017 was not the 107 thing of joy for everybody.
Nope. In a nutshell, I don't think it was.
Anyone else can jump in here at any time. If there are any other questions? All right, then. Well, let's move on to Duran. Duran, you stood at a very expensive, I'm going to sound insulting now, Duran, a very expensive model aeroplane for a long time over the weekend. How long did you fly it for, and why on earth did you do it?
We flew, to be exact, we flew for 10 hours, 44 minutes, and 24 seconds.
It's fairly exact. And why? And why did you do that?
Well, obviously, we want to every now and again do full endurance tests. So we fly the aircraft obviously quite often, doing developmental test flying, various different test flights during the weeks. And every now and again, we like to put in an endurance flight. We actually haven't had a lot of time to do endurance flights recently. Our last endurance flight was 6 hours with one of our prototype airframes, or the kind of pre-production airframes. We have done various flights on the production airframes, and then we obviously wanted to do a full long endurance flight on the final production airframes that we're shipping out. So it was, to be honest, a bit of a surprise. We were hoping for about 7 or 8 hours based on our math and calculations and all the improvements we've done on the airframe based on what we had on pre-production and the first couple of models. And obviously, as any product, we improve it as we go. But it was a bit of a surprise to everyone when we were flying for about 4 hours longer than we expected.
And that's not heavy fuel. That's straight old petrol, is it?
Straight four-stroke, yeah. We've obviously done quite a bit of work in terms of the bits and bobs that we've put the aircraft together with. Four-stroke, 21cc single-cylinder engine. Yeah. So we're not currently using heavy fuel. We are looking at that for our next aircraft, but yeah, currently it's still just standard four-stroke.
Oh, gee.
So did your neck get sore after you were looking up there for 10 hours?
We actually had all the people from the office come up after work. We got it airborne fairly early in the afternoon. Expecting to fly 7 or 8 hours. We were looking at ending kind of mid to late evening. We had a couple of fires going and some food and food on the fire. We got it in the air and just did a fairly small autonomous loop mission. I'd say about 2.5 kilometers, just a 3-point autonomous loop. I think we did 700 or 800 loops. Total distance traveled in our flight was 850 kilometers.
Yeah, you have converted me on these things. I don't know if you're going to be candid when I'm going to ask you now, just how much drag do those things produce? I mean, the motors it just doesn't seem sensible to me, but you're proving me utterly wrong all the time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people and companies trying to develop VTOLs, we've seen, obviously we do our research and we keep an eye on what other people are developing in the VTOL scene, and it surprises us quite often how complicated everyone's trying to make VTOLs in terms of shifting motors and using all electric, and then your VTOL motors all twist and then using the same actual propulsion for fixed wing. And we've just really stuck to something very, very straightforward. For brushless motors. They don't move, they don't mount, and a very efficient fixed wing pusher, combustion pusher. And the drag, I mean, we've really proven it now that there really doesn't make a difference. I mean, if you look at most aircraft this size and under 16 kilograms all up weight, most of them fixed wing only don't even get 10 hours endurance, let alone a VTOL.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to build one. I'm definitely gonna have to build one. Now, again, you don't have to answer this. Why are the front motors down and the motors on the rear boom up? Why aren't they all down or all up, or one up, one down, or why? Why is
We get that question so much. It's actually a really simple solution. We'd obviously prefer to have all of the motors on the lower side, so we're just being slightly more efficient. It's about 3 or 4% more efficient having it at the bottom of the tube, so you don't have the air,
around the boom?
hitting the tube. It also minimizes vibration slightly. The only reason we have the rear motors on the top side is just to have prop clearance for the pusher propeller. If we have them at the bottom, we just don't have the clearance for the 14-inch pusher prop. That's the only reason.
Yeah. I really want to hate separate. I want to hate it. I want to hate your machine, but I'm finding less and less reasons to hate it. Now I knew you had told me in the past you were making a bigger one, but you're making a bigger one. I forgot what it's called. It's called the bigger one. Maybe you could tell me about the bigger one.
Yeah, no problem. As I mentioned to you a while back, we've always planned to. Well, we were looking at either doing a smaller one. We did the math and looked at the market, and we don't really think a smaller one is really worth pursuing. This transition, as it is fairly small. I mean, 3 meters, 16 kilograms all up, so it's not a large aircraft. And we're still getting almost 11 hours. We're actually going to increase the fuel tank width by about 5 millimeters just so we can do 11 hours, just for the fun of it, just to say we can actually do 11 hours and not just under 11, just for that'd be quite
a useful load. I mean, there's no good saying you could do 11 hours if you're not carrying anything.
Yeah, but if you look at what we were estimating up to 6 or 7 hours empty, we're doing 11 hours empty now. So we would easily get 8, 9, 10 hours with full payload.
And that's a kilo and a half on that one.
Correct, yeah. So we're, like I mentioned, it doesn't really make sense for us to do anything smaller. So we are doing something quite larger. It'll be a 6-meter base aircraft or base wingspan. It'll be virtually the same design and layout as the transition, again keeping things fairly straightforward, fairly simple, to a recipe that we think really works. We've obviously done quite a lot of the work already. The aircraft is designed, the airfoils are designed, the actual aerodynamics and all of that has really been done, and it's just scaling it up. So the base aircraft will be 6-meter wingspan, all up weight around 62 kilograms. Last thing really before we actually start manufacturing is just finalizing the pusher motor, making sure we have a reliable pusher motor for the aircraft we can get supply of long term. But other than that,
so that's both physical supply of the motors from a manufacturer and putting it on a bench, I assume, and running it for hours and hours and hours, just sat in the workshop.
Correct. There's a couple of options. We can go with, a high-end UAV-specific motor, fuel-injected, heavy fuel, or we can go for something slightly more affordable and do some of the modifications we've done on the transition. The first option, I don't think we'd be as efficient as we have managed to do with the transition, but obviously with the type of aircraft and the altitudes and the endurance, our math currently is sitting close to 30 hours endurance on that aircraft. And that'll all be based on the actual final choice we make on the fuel motor. So efficiency is obviously very important to us, but so is reliability. We're just busy finalizing the fixed wing pusher motor. Once we've done that, we should have our first airframe up in the air. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be flying already.
I was going to say, you need to make that happen for our Christmas holidays here, so I can motor down over holidays and have a look. Because it's summer in South Africa for our Northern Hemisphere viewers, and everyone goes on holiday. So did you learn much in the aerodynamic sense, or how are you learning much that you'll move forward to the reach from the transition?
Yeah, we've learned quite a bit in the aircraft design from our very first airframes early last year, flying them, making minor adjustments from initial concept to what we're flying now. You know, it hasn't really changed that much. It's been a lot of small things, but the major concept and what I envisioned from end of 2015 when we started the VTOL project is very much the same. So it's just a lot of small changes. You know, adjusting the empennage angle to minimize drag with payload and without payload and averaging that out. Everything else in terms of the manufacturing of the aircraft is you know, pretty high end in terms of the carbon we're using. The entire weight of the aircraft is the airframe itself is only 5.6 kilograms. So we've done quite a bit of work in terms of making all the bits and pieces as light as possible, as efficient as possible. And I think again that really kind of comes through with our endurance test.
Absolutely. I think we should jump to Gene, who's obviously arrived on scene, and I'm seeing aircraft landing mats jump out there, Gene.
As a matter of fact, you are. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder, but that's the Brazos River behind us, and it is flowing very, very fast. It's
Wow.
it's in flood stage right now, and the island across the way has been cut off.
Okay, so you're going to look at the critical infrastructure start for people that are just joining us, and the part that you're looking at is water. So what are you going to go off? If you can tell us, don't put your neck on the line. What are you going to look at there?
We are going to fly over to the other side of the island and look at two facilities over there that they need to get a damage assessment on, and that is our current mission at the moment. We have
and will you
two of them that we're going to go to.
Will you just send them raw imagery, or will you generate a 3D model and such and so forth and send that on, or will it just be raw imagery?
It's just going to be raw imagery right now. And saw that, Rory. Good night, and have a good one. He said he was going to have to jump off. I hate to be hogging all this stuff, but I just don't. I've never gotten the opportunity to do something like this for you guys.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's surreal, isn't it? I'm sat in Africa. Brucey's in New Zealand. Loretta's getting ready for the next storm, and David's just having a nice cup of tea and coffee somewhere in central England where nothing ever happens. And Duran's also in South Africa. It's amazing. Oh, what a wonderful world we live in. Is that at the back of your van that you've just arrived in? We're seeing there.
Yeah, that's actually Puppy Feet 1. That's the call sign for that van, because it used to be a dog grooming van that we converted.
Fantastic. No llama. No llama. Oh, very good. He's here all week. So now you're there. Are you completely, to use a word from our world, are you completely autonomous in your task? They know you're there and you can go and do it, and then you'll go home later?
Yes, we are. We've been pretty much given our own reign, if you are our own lead, to go out and perform these missions as necessary. They assign them to us, but we can determine what aircraft we're using, what imager we're going to use, and how we're going to get it back. Obviously, being completely self-contained like this is a pretty sweet deal, and not too many people have this capability. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, have you got a boat just in case that thing goes down on the island over there?
No, we don't have a boat. We have a boat available to us, but it's not with us at the moment.
Yeah, I can see that being an issue. Wow, this is surreal. Does anyone else in the chat have any questions for Gene? No, I'm leaving it. We'll keep watching you in the background, Gene, and
I'll go ahead and.
We'll keep a weather eye on what you're doing, and we'll jump back to you. We'll shout at you as required.
Okay.
Cool, man. All right.
I see what you did there, Gary. A weather eye. Very good.
Yeah, I'm learning at the feet of the master. But I don't have the hat. So Duran, where were we? Duran. So yes, you're fantastic duration and all these other things, and quite a big thing. You're going to have an aircraft around that's sort of the size of a or bigger than a Scan Eagle ultimately.
Yeah, the Scan Eagle is actually quite similar size to the Transition. I think it's, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, also a 3-meter aircraft. The
Yeah.
reach itself will be, yeah, 6 meters. So what we're doing is, as I mentioned, 6-meter base aircraft. And if you look at the Transition, where our winglets are on the Transition, on the reach, we'll actually have extensions. So you can plug out the extension of the wing, and you can plug in another half a meter on each end to get up to 7 meters. So we'll have a 6-meter base and 7-meter optional wing extensions for just added payload and endurance.
Who are you hoping to sell these things to?
We've
Sorry, it's a
surprisingly
bit
had
rude.
no, not a problem. We've had quite a lot of interest for larger system. We were at Exponential in Dallas earlier this year in May with 2 aircraft there in the booth, and it was actually quite surprising. The clients coming up to the booth and asking for larger payloads. 5, 6, 7 kilograms is what it seems to be quite a norm in terms of what people want to fly. LiDAR is still currently still too heavy for these type of aircraft. Typical LiDAR sensors are still 3, 4, 5 kilograms, depending on what you're looking at. I think the lightest one now is made by Yellowscan at about 1.6 kilogram, minus all the auxiliary power supplies and everything you need. So we were quite surprised with the demand for a larger aircraft. But coming back to your question, very similar clients to what we have now, just simply wanting to fly larger payloads. A lot of surveillance, security, search and rescue, a lot of mapping, and obviously a lot of longer range applications.
And not much from the delivery world yet.
Well, we're obviously quite excited with the Malawi and the drone corridor UNICEF. We should be flying up there later this month or next month to do some testing in the corridor there. Working with a medical supply company doing a medical device that's tailor-made to fit in the Transition. So that's quite fun. I'm very excited about that aspect of it as well. Obviously, we have the typical boring work, but then I'm quite excited on a personal side in terms of deliveries, and being an African, doing those type of things up in Africa is quite exciting. And yes, we'll be doing that pretty soon with the deliveries, and again with a reach, just having 6, 7, 8 kilograms worth of payload to do deliveries, and a range of probably close to 1,600, 1,700 kilometers, would be really advantageous in those type of applications.
Well, you'd pretty much you'd pretty much be able to do the whole of the country here, wouldn't you, from your base there? I bet you
Virtually,
would.
yeah.
Getting on
If
for
you're
it. Yeah.
yeah, if you're based in Bloemfontein, you could cover every corner of South Africa.
Yeah. But why would you do that? Why would you do that? I'll buy another aircraft. I wouldn't do that. It's yeah, no, it's quite amazing. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and yeah, I'm beginning to get it now. I'm beginning to understand. And when we do those sort of deliveries and long range stuff and need to log stuff, see, I'm trying to segue into David now. I can't think of a cool way of doing it, so I'll just give up trying to do that. You've got some new features on your software, I think, at CQNet, David.
Yeah, so we've just about to roll out some new updates with CQNet, our flight safety management system. As you know, I've been working extensively on looking at flight log data for specific systems recently, with some of the OEM systems that are also on the market. And we're able to now provide essentially enhanced flight forensics within the system. So as users now are uploading their flight logs and attaching them to their mission data, we can provide detailed insights into what the system is currently doing whilst it's in flight, if there are any flagged errors or messages being recorded within the systems, motor failures, prop issues, ESC issues, etc. We're also now extracting battery voltage information at mission start and mission end, which is now automatically populating the battery usage logs. So again, really streamlining and making the process more efficient. So like poor old Gene, bless him, when he's out there doing 10, 20 sorties in a day, keeping track of all that information, the flights, the battery management, etc. is now just all managed through the flight log data. So it helps to kind of really streamline that process. With us being able to utilize that flight log data, we're now able to do real-time 3D playbacks. So you have a nice Google Earth overlay embedded within CQNet, and then you can replay the actual flight paths that the UASs have flown. So again, it's great for surveyors if they're doing multi-missions and they want to see exactly what areas were covered on mission 1, mission 2, mission 3, 4. We can do that. It's great as well for organisations to show other people within the organisation, this is how we carry out X, Y, Z type of survey. You can see, as you call it, the lawnmower effect path from your waypoint mission flying and things like that. But thirdly, for investigations, if your organisation is operating UAS and lo and behold, you have an incident and you lose a system and the flight log is recoverable either by the ground station or from the drone itself, you can import that into the system. It will give you a full diagnostics of the system, what it was doing to the point of the failure, and we can replay that flight back. So again, you get more of an understanding of what actually occurred. Was it a system failure? Was it a pilot error? Or was there an external factor that could have potentially bestowed upon the problem that you had? The other feature we've just recently added as well is mission duplication. So if you've got quite a large project, instead of you having to go in and implement missions individually now, you can specify crew and a particular system to that mission type within that project, and then you can duplicate it given a specific interval, 1, 10, 20, 30, 40 times. Again, great for surveying guys, who are out there doing multiple missions over multiple areas. These missions become ultimately containers for recording all the pre-flight, post-flight checks. And again, you upload your flight logs to the system, it will match it with the mission data, and again, just populate all your battery logs for you. You keep a record of all your flight checks, etc. as well. So we're really kind of dragging the UAS ops side away from the likes of the spreadsheets and the paper logs, and trying to remove as much kind of human data entry and involvement as possible, and maximize the full potential of the flight log data. But what that also does is reinforce and power, trend data analysis, because you could have an operator that does 50 flights with a particular UAS, and on one particular day, the radio drops out and it crashes into a structure, let's say. And he might only be looking at the flight logs one at a time after each mission. So, oh, okay, there was a fault there, but never mind. And oh, there was a fault there. Now we can see statistically over a period of time if the radio dropouts were getting worse. Was there a hardware fault that was flagging, but he ignored it because he thought it was a one-off and forgot about it happening the previous time? So it helps with prevention, and again, ensuring kind of flight safety as well. And I think one of the things to kind of add to that is now we're looking for partnerships with OEMs where we can help and offer our flight management system to OEM manufacturers. So they make these fantastic systems, but when the customers, etc., receive these systems, they're all back on the normal spreadsheets or the manual paperback systems. And we now have a system that we can integrate with the OEM system. We can fully break down the flight log to a readable format for both parties to understand, and really kind of make that synergy between a safety management system and a particular piece of hardware.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation you could have with Duran now, really. And you're giving a webinar tomorrow, but I think we should jump to Gene, because it looks to me like they're getting ready to. Sorry to butt in there, David, but they're getting ready to get airborne. So can we jump to you there, Gene, if you're listening out? Is he frozen now? I've said that.
He's probably
yes, wasn't he?
He's probably about to load the DJI Go app on his phone to finally inspire, and it's killed the
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
There we are.
Yep.
Where are you at, Gene? Are you about to get airborne?
Yeah, we're going through our pre-flight right now.
All right, should we jump back to you in a second then? We'll say, David, just tell me about that webinar again.
Yeah, so we've got we're now running weekly webinars.
We're about to get airborne. We're going through our pre-flight right now. Can you hear?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you, Gene. You're a bit on and off now. Yeah, Bruce reckons he's heard of pre-flights.
Yeah, so we're running the webinars every Wednesday, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and it gives people an insight and an overview of what the system is, what it can do, how can it assist and aid operations, you know, and let them have a quick draft through of the product itself and whether it will be of use to their organisations. And the uptake has been pretty well so far. So yeah, it's gaining momentum, which is good.
Oh, there we go. I thought that was going to happen. Just dropped out just as it was getting. I was just thought, wow, it'd be really cool if it gets airborne just on the top of the hour, like just as we're closing. That'd be like we'd planned it or something. but Loretta, I think is there a seminar or something that you're doing? Gene's coming back to us, so that's cool. I think Loretta, you're involved in the seminar. Maybe you can run us through that and what's going on with that. You'll need to unmute, Loretta. Sorry. Let's see if I can unmute you.
Okay. Did I unmute
There we are.
myself? Okay.
You did.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a continuing legal education seminar in San Diego on Thursday, next Thursday. And it runs pretty much all day long. And it's pretty pricey. So really, if you're not a lawyer, hopefully someone will pay for it. But I will be speaking about drone laws and the latest legal cases. John Golio will be speaking, and PK, who is head of NASA's UTM, will be speaking, as well as other people. And it's in San Diego, the Hilton Garden Inn in downtown San Diego.
Is there anything in particular you'll be telling people that's new and varied? Is it stuff people will sort of know?
Well, I mean, people who know drone laws and the legal issues will pretty much know a lot of it, but people who are new to drones and the legal issues won't. Plus, I think you'll hear what the latest is on the UTM. I think that should be very exciting. And there'll be other speakers. So insurance issues, that's in a constant state of flux. So I think there'll be new information for everyone, but it'll be particularly valuable for lawyers because they will get legal education credits for their hundreds of dollars that the seminar costs.
Okay. Oh, is that Inspire gone? Oh no, it's still there. I can see it there. It's still there. Cool. All right. Well, if you email me the link later, Loretta, I'll put it in the comments down below, and I'm sure there'll be a link for it. And if anyone's interested, they can go to that. Now, over on the other side, being very quiet so far today, is Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, have you got good reason for being quite so quiet? Please explain yourself.
No, I'm just a very quiet person. You know me, Gary. I never speak up when I'm not called to speak up. But I am battling the powers that be, which means I think a lot.
Sometimes I sit and think, and sometimes I just sit. Yes. You've been walking around in the parks again as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been doing my bit to educate the public and so forth. And a remarkable number of people just stop and look and ask all sorts of really good questions. So I take the opportunity to hand out little safety brochures and things. And generally speaking, I'm really impressed at the way my own drone flying activities are being embraced by the public that come across me, probably because I'm not doing anything to invade their privacy or upset them. But it's certainly the best way to forge a link with people out there is actually to go out and do stuff and, you know, let them talk to you. I think our regulators could learn a little bit from that.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Do you know what I'm just thinking about doing? You know what we normally do is normally we finish this show and then we normally have a much better chat when we've finished. So if we can just agree that we've all finished, it's finished now, and let's try and have that, that more relaxed chat that we have afterwards. So officially finished, done, over. Right.
Good.
So,
right. Excellent.
Well,
so all round to Gary's place for a beer, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's,
absolutely. Yeah,
it's,
come around.
loved it.
I'm driving.
Who's no,
It's
no, there's no one from
it-
Canada here, is there? Because one thing I wanted to talk about was that Canadian government's put up a website which has they're asking questions, which is a great thing to do if you're a regulator. They're asking what people think, inviting people to comment. And the interesting thing is that a lot of the people who have been there and commented have complained that their comments haven't appeared, or they've been marked as spam, or half of them have been deleted. So if you're going to produce such a system, it would pay to make sure that it worked before you released it. And I'm a bit worried that they haven't done that. The same 10 comments have been sitting on the first thing for ever since the site opened, and none of the new comments have appeared. And oh, come on, guys, if you can't organize a simple website, how can you regulate drones?
Yeah. So well, yes. So I'll have to have a look at that. So that really it's not working.
It gives the impression it's working until you try and post a comment, and it seems to be very selective in what it allows and doesn't allow. My comment was simply congratulating them on this initiative to be more engaged with the drone flying community, and I put another post up saying that they have to recognize that there is not a drone flying community. There are two communities. It's a commercial community and the recreational community. The needs and the attitudes and perspectives of both those communities are quite different. Therefore, they need to realize that and produce regulations that don't try and do everything in one fell swoop. They need to perhaps differentiate between the two communities and address them independently. And neither of those comments made it through the firewall of stupidity they have set up on that website.
You sure it's not just a really good Bruce Simpson filter, and it's
No,
working
because
really, really well?
Because I called myself Mark Garneau, so they should listen.
Oh, I see. Is that Canadian for cake? I don't know. So Lily's back. Have we seen that?
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? I can't believe someone actually paid money for some of the intellectual property of the Lily drone, but someone has. They've thought, oh, this is the worst drone crowdfunder project in history, so let's buy it and let's release a version of the Lily drone that is far worse than the original. And we'll expect people who might have lost a fortune in crowdfunding this to come and then pay us money to buy a substandard copy of the original that doesn't do half the stuff that was claimed. Brainstorm, it's brilliant. Someone's really got their head screwed on there.
Well, yes. Why would you even entertain the thought of buying the IP on that? I'm seeing a map scrolling in here. What am I seeing on the map here? Am I seeing wet stuff? Is that Mr. Walters? Are you seeing just where?
I'm playing Find Gene.
Oh, where's Gene?
So I'm just looking at all the airspace notifications and things around Freeport where the Brazo River runs down. Just scoping out to see what kind of airspace Gene's going to be flying in.
And is there can you Gene, maybe can you guide us in a little bit then, Gene, on that tiny map we're looking at?
Yeah, actually, if you will look at Sargent Beach, there is you can find that in Google fairly easy, and we are at the drawbridge at Sargent Beach.
Right, okay.
The drawbridge at Sargent Beach.
Yeah, I used to surf not too far from here. When I was growing up as a lad, we'd go to Freeport and surf, and sometimes we would come over here and surf if it was any better.
And surf is up right now.
Yeah. I think we have we had a DJI incident here? Have we had a limit put on us?
Aircraft data updated, so I won't let it take off.
Okay. DJI is pushing yet a new update on us before we can fly.
That's mad, isn't it? That is mad. That's got to be, well, the industry's calling out for it to be addressed, and I hear that the new offline mode is only going to allow you to fly like 50 and 50, or probably isn't it 50 meters and 50 meters, might be 100 and 100, but it's definitely going to curtail. I don't know if you've heard any more about that than I have, Gene, but it's definitely going to curtail.
The message that we got was 30 meters and 50 meters.
Oh, okay. So worse than I thought.
And also, I believe as well, just to touch on that, that if you are in offline mode and the device cannot determine your location because you're offline, the 5.8 would potentially be disabled as well, because it might not be authorized for use in your country. which is just crazy.
Well, well, we said it before. The 5.8 is going to be when vehicle to vehicle starts getting very popular. 5.8 is going to be a big issue all around. And people are, you know, really enjoying their 5.8ness of open channel. It's going to get very, very noisy very soon. Very soon.
Actually, it's interesting. We've got some really bad interference on some parts of 5.8 here in New Zealand at the moment, and some of the channels that we used to use for FPV are becoming very difficult to use. So I don't know what's happening, but the band is definitely getting busier.
Yeah, well, it's been given over. Well, I might insult you now. It probably won't affect New Zealand much, but like here as well. But yeah, not too many autonomous vehicles driving around with the vehicle to vehicle. But it will be. There will be. There will be.
Yeah, I think it's used for weather radar as well in some areas.
Yeah, it's used for all sorts of things, isn't it? Because it's a low-powered, license-free, spectrum. So of course it is. Looking. So where is Gene sat in this car park then?
Well, there's a bar called Hooker's Waterfront Bar and Grill, but I don't think it's.
Oh well, that's where he'll be then. I see. You need go no further.
This appears to be the swing bridge, I believe.
All right. Well, show us what can your system do. You're just on Google Maps. What would your system show us there?
Right, so let me just determine exactly where that is in relation to where I was looking. So let me pick that one there.
Oh, he's airborne. They're airborne. There's live video.
Let's cut to Gene quickly then. Oh yeah, there we go.
Let's watch this mission. Oh, there's the building. That's the bar you were talking about.
Yeah, it probably is. That's the Hooker's Bar and Grill.
That's where he's flying his Inspire to.
Let's see.
Oh, so that must be. Do you think that's the swing bridge then? Swan.
I think so. I'm just trying to bring it up on my system now. To recognise the address.
That's weird, isn't it? Well, that update didn't take too long for it to happen. Can you hear us, Gene? Do you want to talk us through what you're doing if you can hear us? Ah, this must be the critical infrastructure.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gene.
I was talking the whole time. Yeah, that was Hookers, but Hookers is behind us. And yes, this is a chlorination.
A coronation.
Chlorination, yeah.
Chlorination. Okay.
Yeah. And
they don't have coronation in America.
And this one doesn't appear to have any damage at all. They told us that this one probably does not. Oh, there you go. See the little blue chlorination tanks down there?
Yeah. So they can't get an engineer there, or that's on at the back of a very long list of places they've got to visit.
Exactly.
Okay.
And by the way, Bruce, this is Class G airspace.
And are you taking? Is this video imagery that will be sent via this probably internet connection back to the Gold Commanders or something?
Yeah. No, actually, this is just for your viewing pleasure. We've already taken the images and we're just showing you the some of the stuff that we get to see.
Okay. And then, so how many more of these have you got to do today?
One more.
Okay.
And it's pushing 1,700 hours now here. So yeah, it's 1,700 hours now. So.
Wow. And so you can disappear off to that. You'd have to wade across to that bar to get a beer then.
No, we don't have to wait. It's right here behind us.
Oh, okay. It wasn't that building in front that you get airborne then.
No, it's behind us here.
Oh, that's good.
And there's one other that we'll probably take off here in just a little bit to go see. That's a little further down the road a bit, but obviously we can't get to it via road, so we're going to get to it the only way we can.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah.
Okay,
well,
That's it. There you go. Okay, see the flooding?
Yeah.
See all the flooding?
Yeah. Oh, is that where the swing bridge is there?
Yes. That's not usually where water goes. What you're
Right.
seeing is how far out of the banks the river is.
And what's the state of play as regards that going down? Is that going to take a week to go down? Is it going to take a month to go down?
Well, we have another depression out here in the Gulf of Mexico, which is 2 aircraft left. And if that one comes in, it's going to be really ugly. And we're seeing some models with Hurricane Irma coming right through the gap between Cuba and Florida and into the Gulf of Mexico, and we're hoping that that does not occur.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
and now we're switching screens.
Hey, you're not gonna get your map on there. You're not gonna get your map because that's it.
Okay, yeah, our cell signal is kind of starting to get dicey here, so.
Okay, mate. All right. Well, let's not use all your internet for talking to us. That might be somewhat foolish. Thanks very much.
We've got it. We got it. But anyway, yeah, that's my day, guys, and it's going to look like it's going to be my days for some time to come.
Is it a rude question to ask? How are you getting paid for this? Are you getting paid for this?
No, it's not rude to me, and no, I don't know at this point.
Okay.
So we're trying to work all that out. It may be nothing. I mean, this is what we do, right?
Sure. Okay. But then that's okay. It's a lot of time, a lot of valuable hours. Okay. Well, all right. Let's not delve any more on that. Look, it's 6 minutes past the hour. I'm going to put my traditional. Does anyone else have anything else call out that would like to speak about? Go ahead, over. Go ahead, caller.
One thing, just on the tail of what Gene was saying there, I noticed that the modelling for the hurricane path, it was mapped by NOAA, or was predicted by NOAA. It's in North American whatever, and also by European weather modelling. The European models were so much better than the American ones. They predicted the track of the hurricane almost perfectly. The American models were way out. So it's interesting that the hurricane is better. You know, they've got more technology on the other side of the world to predict where the hurricane's going to go in your country. Fantastic.
I don't know. Did you see the spaghetti models that they put out?
No.
It was atrocious. They put the spaghetti model out, and it had about a dozen different paths, and it looked like Medusa's hair. It was crazy where it was going and where it was going to turn around and come back and do a loop and everything else. So, you know, most weather people are right, are 50% right 80% of the time. Okay, so that's the way we're going to go with it.
Yeah. Well, they did. Europe did invest in a huge supercomputer for all of this. Another huge supercomputer recently, and I believe you're disinvesting in NOAA and your emergency services. I mean, what do you need it for? What do you need it for? I mean, it seems silly to me. It's always nice indoors.
I think Trump's going to regulate to ban hurricanes, isn't he? They're going to be there's a hurricane wall he's building somewhere.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it. That'll be the way forward for this. So,
well, of course,
yeah.
you know, Harvey was his fault. I don't know if you knew that. So yeah, it was his fault.
Well, it's obviously, and then you've got the next one coming. So how long does your storm season last? I mean, is this?
I guess it depends on whether you're into global warming and the modeling that goes on with it. It usually runs in through like September the 19th, but we've had storms as late as October. So, you know, it's we're just gonna have to wait and see. It's not unusual. I mean, this has been a fairly low storm season because we're only up to I, and we have been up as high as P in the past or higher. So, you know, it's capricious. You just don't know if you're going to have a bunch of storms or you're going to have little storms, and they try to blame El Nino and La Nina and this, that, and the other thing. And I think I think they're guessing a lot.
It's all down to climate change. Let's throw another tire on the barbie, eh?
Well, we're still having drought here. Drought is a big issue here. Still is in my part of the world. But anyway, look, it's 10 past the hour. If anyone else,
I got to show you this. I got to show you that picture.
Oh,
Can
yes.
you see that picture?
I can see that picture. So you're going off to check another facility now?
Yeah, we're just doing a little damage assessment down the island, and that's most of the island is covered up there, so it's interesting. Anyway,
Louis in the live chat's just asking about how groups are being coordinated coming to Texas, and I think that really, Louis, is a question that's going to be properly addressed afterwards. And it's not really how this one was done; it's how the next one's going to be done. I don't know. That's my take on it. What about you, Gene?
Yeah, there were a lot of well-intentioned people that wanted to come down and do a lot of wonderful things, but you can't save the world in a weekend, and that's going to be the discussion that we're going to be putting out there. It just takes a lot more preparation, and we're going to have to get through people's heads that you need to know what you're doing and you need to be trained, and that's going to be the probably the hot topic for a while to come, especially even after Irma.
Yeah, back-to-back incidents. Okay, look, it's 10 past. I'm gonna buy the gavel yet, but extra topics going once, going twice, and there aren't any. So with that, thank you very much, Loretta. I will add the link to your legal chat. Thank you, Gene. Thank you for being live throughout. It's been amazing. It's been mad.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's very crazy. If you go back, I was harking on back to 2007 when we all started playing this game. Who knew it would end like this? Duran, thanks very much. Go on, Gene.
I just got to say that this was made possible by KSI Video, and these guys that gave us the comm box that we're using. And right now it's working great for us. And let me tell you, we're in a place where there's hardly anything left. So good on KSI Video.
Absolutely. Well, I'll put a KSI Video. I'll put a link to them down in the bottom when we're finished. Duran, I'll put a link to your machines down at the bottom. Thank you very much for taking the time. It's midnight here in South Africa.
Thanks,
David, there you are. It's a pleasure, mate.
Guys.
It's a pleasure. Hopefully we'll do it again soon. And David and Bruce, thank you again also, gentlemen. And David will tune into your show tomorrow, your webcast. And I'll try and remember to put the link at the bottom. And XJet and RC model reviews of no one's heard about them. All right. So with that, thanks very much, everybody. We'll join you. We'll hopefully, dear viewer, we'll see you again 2100 GMT next week. Like, subscribe, whatever, YouTube, whatever. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.